This is a look at Emmon Bach's first orthography. I have a couple of documents that I'm going to go through, so we'll go to the first one here. So Emmon Bach's first orthography appears in a few different resources. There's one called a Isla book, which he created in 1990. There's also Wisini's Isla Kiala from 1995. There's a Isla English Draft Dictionary that was made in 1998. And there is also the same dictionary, but it was English to Isla, also from that same year. And I'm going to go over some of the features of this orthography. So first of all, it uses what I call a straight apostrophe. That's my term for it. I'm not sure exactly what it's called, but it looks like an apostrophe that is basically like a straight line, or it also kind of resembles like a lowercase l that's kind of hanging up in the air. And this is used as an accent marker, so it shows you where to place emphasis in a word. This orthography also places apostrophes after ejective or glottalized consonants. So here we see an example in Emmon Bach's first orthography where you have a Q, and then it's an ejective Q, but the apostrophe comes afterwards. And also here you can see the accent marker coming after the vowel. So that's how he represented oikas in his first orthography. Oikas is Devil's Club. And this is how he represented it later on in his second orthography. So you can see the difference between his first and his second orthographies. He also used vowel combinations, also referred to as digraphs. So he used a double A for what's called a long A. So in the International Phonetic Alphabet, or IPA, this is represented by a single letter A, followed by what looks like a colon, but it's actually two small triangles pointing towards each other. That represents a long A in the International Phonetic Alphabet. In Emmon Bach's first orthography, it's two A's together. He also uses AI, and in IPA, it's represented by this symbol, which is called an epsilon. And the epsilon is from the Greek alphabet, and it makes an eh sound. So words like met, pet, bet, that E in these English words makes an eh sound. And that's represented by the letters A, I in Emmon Bach's first orthography. Next we have AU. In IPA, this appears as an upside down C, and this is what's called an open O. So it makes an O sound. So it's not quite an O sound, it's O. And this orthography also uses a small raised W for rounded consonants. So you'll see a small W raised up, and these are for what are called rounded consonants. So gua, qua, hua sounds like that. This orthography also uses a macron for what's known as uvularized consonants. So the G with the line on top, that line is called a macron, and the sound is basically what we refer to as a back G. It's a deeper G sound. Then you have, or I call this a G bar. X with the macron on top is what I call an X bar. Then we have the G with the macron, followed by a small raised W. This is a rounded G bar. And then we have a rounded X bar. He also used consonant combinations, also referred to as digraphs, for what we call lateral sounds. So DL is what we call, what we use nowadays is a lambda, and it makes a DL sound, dl. So if you think of words like madly, gladly, sadly, that DL together is what makes that dl sound. So he uses DL together. This can be a little bit problematic, and we'll take a look at that later on. He uses LH for the sound. He uses TL for a t sound. And he uses a TL followed by an apostrophe for a t sound. So this is tl, this is t, and this is t. He also uses a C for a TS sound, t. And then he uses a C followed by an apostrophe for an ejective TS sound, or t. So regular C, t, kind of a softer sound. C followed by apostrophe, and Emmon Bach's first orthography is t. It's a sharper, more explosive sound. And he uses the letter Z for DZ, like the English word ads. Ads. So that's what the Z sounds like. It sounds like z, z, ads. So we'll look at some examples here. The first one is Islam. Islam. So you can see that the accent mark comes after the A, and in following orthographies, the accent mark gets moved on top of the A. So that's how we know where to put emphasis. Islam. And that means today or present time. Next we have baba'o. Baba'o. So the accent comes after the A, and then we have the apostrophe. So it kind of lengthens the word a little bit. And then in later iterations, we have the accent mark on top of the A. So it's a little more concise. And baba'o means grandfather. Next is t'uta. T'uta. This is also t'uta, but you can see the difference with the apostrophe on top of the C and the accent mark on top of the U. And t'uta means fresh, and this is usually in regards to food. Next we have k'atsatnu. K'atsatnu. So you notice this word is quite a bit longer than this one. They're both pronounced exactly the same way, but you see how much shorter the word is after moving the modifiers on top of the letters. And k'atsatnu means pencil. Then we have slendayu. Slendayu. So you have the LH making the sound, and then you have the accent coming after the A. And then in the hybrid orthography, Elsa and Lincoln and Rath, you have the tilted L making the sound, and then you have the accent mark going on top of the A, and slendayu means handkerchief. Next we have mas. Mas, so you have the apostrophe coming after the M, and then in the hybrid orthography, you have the apostrophe on top of the M. Mas, which means what? Then we have nakwa. Nakwa. So you can see that this word is a little bit longer due to the modifiers coming after the letters. And in the hybrid orthography and Emmon Bach's second orthography, you have them on top of the letters. So nakwa means morning. Kwasa. Kwasa. So you see this is lengthened a little bit because you have the Q followed by the small raised W, and then the apostrophe coming afterwards, and then the accent coming after the A. Whereas in later iterations, you see the apostrophe on top of the Q to make it ejective. Then the small raised W, and then the accent mark on top of the A, and kwasa means to cry. Next we have talos. Talos. So that's Emmon Bach's first orthography. This is his second one. And talos means smoked fish. Then we have tlasla. Tlasla. So you remember when I was talking about these digraphs for lateral sounds becoming a little bit problematic? So here's what can happen if you're not familiar with any of the Isla orthographies and how they work, especially ones that have these digraphs. You might be tempted to separate the L and the H, and you might accidentally read it as tlalha. You might read it as tlalha instead of tlasla, because in English we're used to kind of separating consonants like this. This is one single sound, but it's represented by two separate letters. Whereas in the hybrid orthography, this one sound is represented by one symbol. So when you look at this tilted L, you should know that it makes a sound. So there's no possibility of separating it into separate letters. So you know immediately that this is tlasla. Tlasla. And this means porpoise. Next, wiasla. Wiasla, which is a bit longer, and then a more condensed version with the modifiers on top of the letters, and then the tilted L instead of the LH, which again you might accidentally read as wilha, which is not the correct pronunciation. This is not two separate letters. It's meant to represent one sound, whereas in the hybrid orthography we have one symbol representing one sound. Wiasla means parents. Next we have huisala. So that's Emmon Bach's first orthography. This is how he represented it in his second orthography. And huisala means on that side. Next we have ya'ugos. Ya'ugos. So if you listen closely, I'm saying gos and not gos. So that's what I was talking about before, about this digraph representing an open O sound. It's aw. And another thing is that this small raised W is actually kind of being cancelled out by this aw sound. So it's you don't actually hear this small raised W. So it's gos. So you can see the length of this representation compared to this representation. It's much shorter. It's the same pronunciation. Ya'ugos means always raining. And last we have zahun. So that's Emmon Bach's first orthography. This was how he represented it in the second orthography. And zahun means ulakan. So that is a look at these examples and explanations of Emmon Bach's first orthography. So these are retyped representations of Emmon Bach's first orthography. What I'm going to do from here is show you examples from his actual documents. So I'm going to change to a different program to do that.